Hello and welcome to the Codec Moments podcast, here for another round of the usual gaming chat, but without the usual hosts. You've always got myself, Matt. I'm around as normal. Hello. But today I've got two very special guests with me. Well, one very special guest and one Glaswegian. So go on, introduce yourselves.
All right, it's me. You've still not changed the locks, so yeah, I'm still floating about until you change the locks. I know a podcast that knows a good locksmith that'll get them fixed.
We've changed them several times. We just haven't taken your crowbar.
It's because I'm hiding
off
in the bins at night. I jump out and scare Andy. He's a precocious sort, so a wee boo and he'll run away. Anyway, I'm Stuart Cullen, as you've no doubt established.
Hello, Stuart, and the very special guest.
Hello, I'm Connor McKervey at VDJOMB, and I think this might be the first time I've actually appeared on a Codec Moment podcast as it's recorded live rather than just recording a little segment to slot in at a later stage. So
It is. It's good to actually have you here because it's been probably about 5 years that we've been mentioning you, or you've done the odd little bit and piece now and again. But yeah, the first time I've actually been on for a full show, which is good.
Yay!
Very good. And yes, this show actually needs you because amongst our current set of peers, we believe you are the fighting game expert.
Oh, that's maybe overselling my skills. I own a fight stick and a big stack of fighting games. That's maybe about as far as my expertise go. Oh, wait, I can pull off a Dragon Punch and a Haduken. And I can also do a few counters in Tekken, but that's probably about as far as my skills go.
Well, that's better than the rest of us, I think, at the moment. But yeah, we chose you.
Yay! I feel very honoured.
So, as your listeners have probably guessed, this episode's all about fighting games. We thought with Mortal Kombat 11 coming up very soon, that it was actually time for us to just take a bit of a trip down memory lane in terms of the fighting games we've grown up with, what we've played, what we've seen in the evolution, and ultimately where we are today with them. And really, it's over to you guys. Tell me all about your fighting game history. Special guest go first.
Ooh, okay. For me, it's probably International Karate Plus on the Commodore 64. I had a friend who had a Commodore 64, and I remember being just blown away by this weird little karate fighting game. After that, you're probably talking arcades, stuff like Pit Fighter, which had, if anyone remembers that, video captured characters, which then led on to like Mortal Kombat. Street Fighter was always doing the rounds in the arcades, but I was rubbish at it. Just couldn't ever kind of get to grips with it. Then Mortal Kombat came out and I was like, yeah, I really like this. And then Tekken came out with its unique button for each hand and a button for each foot. And I was just like, this is amazing. And it's 3D graphics. And that kind of hooked me into video game fighting games, and I've kind of been an addict of Tekken since that time. But then gone back and started to learn how to play some of the other ones. So it was only a couple of years ago I properly learned how to do fireballs in Street Fighter and learn a bit more of some of the combos in like Mortal Kombat and things like that, and teach myself how to use a fighting stick, which is something I'd never been able to do before. As Matt can attest, when we used to play a hell of a lot of Tekken back in the day, and we are talking a lot of Tekken. Yeah, we used to play with the pads and a multi-tap, so it was getting a group of friends round and seeing who could beat on each other to be the best.
Fond memories.
Oh yeah.
Stu, go on then. What's your experience?
I kind of, like all kids, I kind of did the Street Fighter or Mortal Kombat, kind of the Mega Drive thing, but I really kind of came into fighting Sega Saturn era, so like your Virtual Fighter, your Fighting Vipers, your Fighters Mega Mix, because you get to fight as the Daytona car, because that was phenomenal. Stuff like Last Bronx, these kind of arena-based fighters were kind of like where I cut my teeth. I was at that kind of age where prior to that I was a wee bit young for the kind of skills required to really do it beyond bashing Blanca, but kind of getting into Saturn, I kind of started to kind of understand the concept of fighting wielding a guitar and hitting people till the armor broke, and fighting vipers was always a joy, or a skateboard. And then since then it's been the kind of Street Fighter 4, Marvel vs. Capcom stuff. You know what I mean? Just the kind of the general progression. You know what I mean? Mortal Kombat X as you go up the kind of ranks. You know. Dead or Alive as well, big series. I used to play a bit of Dead or Alive on the Xbox, which had the unlockable Spartan character, which probably was the only reason I played it. But yeah, it was
anything for Halo.
You're not wearing your passion on your sleeve there.
You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Just yeah. But yeah, so kind of mixed bag. Dabbled with a bit of competitive stuff when I thought it was good. You know,
Did you learn very quickly you weren't as good as you thought?
Yeah, there's a fine line. A few stories will no doubt shed some light on down the line, but yeah, there are special breed fighting fans. Really, really special breed.
Certainly, yeah.
But yeah, so just an enjoyment of it, a kind of passive enjoyment, above novice, but not quite there.
Nice. I'm probably fairly similar to Connor in it, actually. The Pit Fighter on the Spectrum, I think, was my first ever fighting game, and I can't even remember if that game worked or not. It was just, but like you say, it was the digitized characters that made it seem quite special, and it was it was probably not a very good game, but the one I remember really kicking things off was Mortal Kombat on the Game Gear, and I played that for many hours, trying to pull off the fatalities and everything else. I'm sure it moved on to Mortal Kombat 2 after that. And then arcade-wise, I think it was Virtua Fighter was really the first one that I played there. It was in my local pub when I was doing my A-levels. And we used to have a fair few rounds on that. Drunk is never good to try and play those types of games. But, you know, it stood in the corner, you give it a bash. And I like the complexity it brought into it, because I was used to sort of relatively straightforward button bashing, and was never into Street Fighter. Never played that. So I that style of fighting game, which I know it's a 2D brawler, but actually the control mechanism is completely different from anything else. And so I never really got into that, but I got into the easier ones, the left kick, left punch, right punch, like you get with Virtua Fighter games and with Tekken. But then I suppose really it kicked off Tekken 3.
Yeah.
That was it. I mean, I played Tekken 2, Battle Arena, Toshinden, I think, got a bit of a look in. But Tekken 3, when we used to play...
Tekken 3 and Soul Calibur were definitely two of the mainstays, weren't they?
Soul Blade, yeah.
So, Soul Blade,
second year at uni, we had a running Soul Blade tournament between everybody in the house. It was those kind of games. It was really the PlayStation era that kicked it off when it became accessible on home console, like I said, with the multi-tap or with the two controllers, however you did it. And then it just progressed. Tekken Tag, Dead or Alive, the advances of the Soul Calibur games. I'm gonna mention it now, but Star Wars Masters of Terras Cassie. I owned that.
It's canon. It's
it was a Star Wars
canon
game.
No, we can't deny that it isn't a thing. So made it canon.
It was never a particularly good fighting game, but it was good. Fun to play as Darth Vader.
Oh, what about the Wu-Tang Clan game? I think we played that at some point, didn't we? 4-player Wu-Tang Clan, which was Thrill Kill that got banned in this country. I think you can get a dodgy copy of but it never got an official release, and it became Wu-Tang Clan, which was actually really good. It was stupidly good. Another one of those kind of group brawler type things, but I remember Wu-Tang Clan being a lot of fun.
I'd forgotten all about that.
It's just popped back into my mind, just thinking about it. It's like, remember that.
Yes. What was it? Taste the Pain?
Yes, that was it.
Yeah. And didn't it go on? It was the Def Jam games after that, which was sort of I don't know if they were the same developer.
It was EA, Def Jam.
Never really got into them.
Yeah, I don't think I think we tried them. I think we might have got them as a rental or something and tried them out and couldn't really click with them.
But I think the thing with fighting games is, and part of the reason we got so heavily into them a number of years ago, was exactly the fact that they were couch co-op.
Yeah.
when you had a fair few
Well, couch
people around.
competitive, weren't they? You could just...
Yeah, you sat there, 6, 7, 8 of you in a room. It's a couple of quick battles, 2-3 minutes, pass the pad on, winner stays in control. And you just keep doing that for hours and hours on end and cycle it round as people come and go.
And winding people up as you deliberately beat them and know every move that they pull off. And constantly counter them as they pull off a certain move because you know it's coming. You know it's coming each time and you can see them getting more and more angry.
Great way to lose friends.
To the point of turning around and saying, well, I can play with one hand. I only need the face buttons. That's all I need. And all you're doing is just throwing a counter, throwing a punch, throwing a counter. Oh, sweet memories.
Yes. Yeah. But that's it. That was the glorious fun of it. It's the camaraderie and the abuse in the same room as you're doing it. And I think that's where my love of them really started, despite having played quite a few prior to that.
Yeah.
I think as it's moved more to an online arena for the battling, I've not enjoyed it quite as much.
I think a skill...
and that might be because I'm not fighting against friends.
Yeah.
The skill levels become a thing now, you know what I mean? I know difficulty in using modes is a thing of choice right now, but I think it's very much true in fighting games is there is a skill cap event for entry, and not most fighters online.
Well, I think there's also a lastability with them as well. Is that unless you've got a good group of people in a digital equivalent of having a house full of mates around to play, it's very, very difficult to get into groups and get into kind of playing people, just hosting a tournament and getting people in, which is what I've done a lot with Tekken 7. You can get quite a few people in, but you do start to see some of the same people coming back. Some of the people that are just cheesy and just there to annoy people rather than actually there to have fun, and it becomes a bit annoying. I know when PS3 came out and Tekken Dark Resurrection was kind of reissued for the PlayStation, that was the first online fighting game I'd ever played, and we used to have so much fun because you'd have a virtual room full of people playing and you'd just be commentating and taking the mickey of the people that were fighting whilst you're sat watching, and then it'd be the equivalent of pass the pad, and it'd be winner stays and loser gets taken out, and that was quite a lot of fun. But you did need to have a good group of people that you'd regularly play with to kind of get that going. And it's definitely not the same. It's definitely nowhere near the same level. But you're right, Stu, there is definitely a point where people are of a far better level. And you also have issues with lag as well. Depending on what time you're playing, there might be no one in your area that's available.
Yeah, netcode plays a part as well, I find, in certain ones. If it's no built to run well, it'll no run well as well, which again makes it unplayable. It's one of the weird ones. All the games out there where lag can impact it, whether it be a shooter and stuff. I feel fighting games, it's at the core of it, because obviously so many technical fighters are frame by frame combat. It's key, you know. It's like your frame counting for your...
Well, that's it. That when you realise, when you start to look at like how the pros playing, is that they actually know how many frames each move is and what kind of effect that has and what kind of move can be used to interrupt what they're doing and things like that. You just go, whoa, this is way beyond my skill level. And it's something you're kind of doing with friends because you're used to the moves and you're kind of used to it, but you're not doing it to the point where you're counting the frames of what move can be put in between to interrupt something and all stuff like that. There's a real high technical level of expertise that some of these guys have that play professionally.
But the thing you find as well is that, say I go online, say I jump into Dead or Alive 6 now. I jump into Dead or Alive 6 and I'm just looking Friday night, a couple of beers, just want a wee breeze. I'll jump in and I'll select maybe 5, 6, 7, 8 characters during my time, but 9 times out of 10 you will get in and you will hit guys that are just mainlining their mains and their secondaries, and you can tell when somebody's playing with a main because there's no messing, and it kind of it's kind of, I know people go poo-poo on shooting games, but I think fighting games is an even more difficult thing to do with randos, I think, because you don't really know the person, like you're saying, like trying to find a group and stuff. Get into an online lobby and you get faced with two things. You either get faced with somebody who's going to annihilate you, throw you in a corner and not let you up, spam moves to the cows come home, or what I've found in a particular game, just leave because they're getting bet, and it's like, where's the fun in that? Like, the point was, it was a beta I was playing, and they were leaving it. I must have had so many people leave for a beta because they were getting bet, and it's like, nothing here counts. It's just a bit of fun to test the system, you know. And I think there's a real, I don't know, kind of set of criteria that comes with a fighting game. It's not just like, you know, you saying when it's your mates from the couch, it's nice and easy, you can play randos, fighting and stuff and all that, and random picks, and really just have a good fun, and somebody will come out on top as thingy. But when you go online, you kind of need to be wearing your big boy pants and be ready for what the world deals you.
That's absolutely true. I think the first time I properly went online for a fighting game for any length of time, I think it was actually Tekken 7. I had a few rounds online with a few other games, but never really that. And I was after the platinum trophy. So you've got to do a certain amount online. You've got to win a certain amount of matches and the tournaments and everything else. And it was a real 50-50 whether it was any fun or not. I think there were a few tournaments which I really enjoyed because the way it put people together, it seemed very balanced. Well, you weren't up against people who were ridiculously high levels and knew what you were doing. Or if you were up against someone who seemed quite high, you could handle them to a degree, and it wasn't a whitewash in any direction. But then sort of the one-on-one matches always seem to be just painful most of the time. You just, like you say, you are just getting spam moved by the same characters over and over again.
It's always, it's more evident as well in fighting games is there's always a ranking system. There's always a tier system that brackets you. And what I've found in certain games, like Street Fighter, for example, is guys would just float about the top of a bracket, and see when they would get over the bracket, then would then lose some fights to brack into that bracket, because there was like a bracket you used to do it in Halo as well. You used to downrank, D-rank in it. It was a known thing. Top players knew you just make a second account, right? But they did in Rainbow Six as well. But they call them Smurf accounts, where it's like pro players will just make a dummy account to come in at a low level, so people will go, oh, he's just a low level. It's the same in fighting games. People would D-rank to be in a nice kind of, because what you'll find is in the brackets, right? So say there's 10 tiers, well, there's only going to be a finite amount of 10s, 9s and 8s, isn't there? So you're only ever going to get to fight 10, 9s and 8s when the rest of your team, the rest of these guys are online. But say 6, 7, 5, there's lots of people. So you keep yourself in that. Like, you'll maybe go up to 10, the top tier, and be like, right, I'm here, blah, blah, blah. But then they could work their way back down the ranking systems. And most fighting games have some kind of online element like this, where it kind of takes you through it's a bracketing system, which is meant to be fair, but there's ways of cheating the system, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, definitely Tekken does that for sure. You can definitely... I definitely do that, but that's more to do with my lack of skill. I get past an ability to be able to play, and I suddenly start to see my rank dropping back down and down and down. But it's quite clever because it has cushions. So you get to a certain point and you can't actually D-rank further down. So you can't go all the way back down to starting rank. You will kind of go as low as you can go in that bracket, basically, and if you go up a little bit further, you'll push yourself into maybe the next bracket. But there is like a cushioned area where it won't keep pushing you down and down and down. If you're really unlucky or a real glutton for punishment like I am, even if I'm losing and I've lost 10 games in a row, if the person's going to rematch me, I will fight him again, because each time I fight him, I'll learn something new and I'll get closer to beating him. And all I'm wanting is to have that one win against him to make him go, okay, I need to think what I'm doing. And that it's really satisfying. It seems like it's a bit stupid why you're banging your head against a wall when someone's obviously better than you. But the only way you improve is by playing people that are better than you.
It's the purest form of challenge. It's like, again, difficulty in that. You know what I mean? It's one thing to play against AI, but it's when you play against a real person, that's when the real challenge is, and because you want to better them, and the only way you're going to get better is sometimes in life you need to get a wee burst nose, and you need to learn from your mistakes, and if it hurts, if it hurts twice as much, you'll learn twice as hard, and that's online gaming, but you know.
I think it's kind of down to the way me and Matt would play. Is that years ago when we would play Tekken, we would play until the early hours and we would practice moves and we would learn how characters interacted with each other. And okay, you keep doing that. I need to stop you doing that. Right, I'm going to learn how to low parry then. Low parry, that totally interrupts it. And when someone is so reliant on that kind of string, as soon as you throw them out of it, it opens them up. And it's really bizarre when you see it when someone goes, oh, I can't do that anymore. And you can see it playing online. Obviously, you're not speaking to the people, but you can kind of see them go, oh, I need to try something different. And it's really satisfying. There's something really satisfying about someone coming in, being really cocksure, and you end up just taking them down a little chip to make them kind of go, oh, okay, I can't just do that. And it's really good, but it is from practice, from playing with real people on a server and learning how someone works. And I definitely wouldn't say I'm great at fighting games. I wouldn't even say I'm mediocre. I would say I really enjoy playing them. I think there's a big difference in being great at something and actually just enjoying it. And I think that's for me what I really like. And it's something that I thought I'd kind of grown out of, because I think the games disappeared. There was definitely a period early on in, say, the PS4 where there wasn't really any fighting games. And I think it was kind of seen as, oh, the fighting games community's all dead. There's nothing. There isn't any games. And then there seems to have been a resurgence just over... say the last 4 years. You've had quite a few big games come out. You've had Street Fighter 5 come out. You've had Mortal Kombat 10. You've had New Dead or Alive. You've had Injustice 2, Tekken 7, Soul Calibur. Then there's been a few of the other like Japanesey style anime games. Me and Stu played one which I can... In Exile, is it?
Yeah, Revelations XD / Part 2.
Yeah, we played that as well. So
Guilty Gear as well.
It seems like there seems to be like a real resurgence in fighting games, and I think it's partly down to the fact that the netcode's a lot better. People's internet connections are better, and I think it's getting people playing online again.
It spans the whole spectrum, but as well, because the other one I was going to say is you wouldn't mention this, like Skullgirls. Skullgirls is an indie game, but it's a phenomenal 2D fighter. Like, it's on the level of like Metal Slug meets Guilty Gear. And there's this kind of... It's really interesting because now we've got fighting indie games. Like, there's a game that's quite legendary around these parts of me getting bet on. It's Black and White Bushido. Again, it's an indie brawler. All right, okay. How we play it is a brawler. It's 2v2, but it's a 4-player kind of party mix game. You know, kind of Smash Bros style game. But again, indie game. It's a brawler. You know. So it's really interesting seeing that kind of side being brought into it, you know?
I'm going to say there's been quite a lot of party brawlers over the years. Maybe not necessarily online ones, but there's been a fair amount if you've been a co-op player. I'm trying to think back to the first one I played. I think it was probably Ragdoll Kung Fu.
Yeah.
Way back on the PS3, and I think it came as a Plus game, if I remember.
It was out before that, but yeah, it then became a Plus game.
Yeah, and that was just ridiculous fun, but that was quite clearly a clone of Super Smash Brothers or one of those games. It was ridiculous kind of beat-em-up style with just chaos all the way through. Is that kind of party brawler something that you guys have ever got into?
Yeah, I enjoy my... if I've got people around, I enjoy playing Smash Bros. With people. I know Smash Bros. Again is a really high-end fighter. Underneath that cute exterior, there's some hardcore Smash Bros. Players out there. But yeah, well, Black and White Bushido, that's the simplest way of putting it. That's that kind of game, as we were just saying, and I kind of love that game through and through, you know. Also like Brawlout, which is Smash Bros. For indies. So like there's a cast of like 7 or 8 original guys, but then there's like Shovel Knight and the guy for Guacamelee and the guy for Super Light Drifter and the guy for Dead Cells. So you know they've kind of started bringing all these characters for iconic indie games into the one presentation, and then it's like, oh, I can fight as basically doing what Smash Bros does, you know. So yeah, they're fun party games, but no, I'll not really venture online with these kind of games, you know.
Yeah, for me, no, I've never really got into it. I'm not a Nintendo owner or really a player, so I've never really played Smash Brothers. Played a little bit of what was it called? PlayStation All Stars Battle Royale, which was the Sony equivalent of it, with Nathan Drake in it and Parappa the Rapper and stuff. Very cutesy, very silly. I think maybe I like them a little more serious than that. I can see the appeal in them, but I think I want something that's got a bit more crunch and a bit more depth to it. I always think they're a bit cheesy and a bit silly, but I understand the point of them.
Yeah.
I think definitely if you're at uni or something like that, or you've got a big group of people that you regularly hang around with, I can see it being one of those things that I probably would have played a lot more had I had access to it or a group of people to play with.
And it has maybe things like stepping away from the 4-player stuff, though. But you mentioned the more serious, the little bit more hardcore, and there is a choice, I suppose. There's some people consider 2D fighters the most hardcore. Some would consider 3D more of a challenge. Where's your preference lie on that, 2D or 3D?
Depends my mood, really. Technically, like stuff like the Mortal Kombat and Injustice are 2D because they're on the plane. They don't actually move. Yeah. So you cut them down to the core. They're just what you're playing years ago. You're just playing them the new, but with really nice graphics. I really like Marvel vs. Capcom 3. We don't talk about Infinity because it was...
I was going to say, please, you can't tell me you enjoy Infinity. That is dire.
It just was a total misstep, and it was the fact they denied that at the time the climate was when Fox and Disney had fell out and stuff, and that's why you don't have any of the X-Men and Wolverine and stuff in it and all that, and it was a total misstep for the series, you know. But then stuff like Dead or Alive 6, Soul Calibur, do you know what I mean? That's really, really nice, really smooth and great. Everything's great about them. They're really just nice to play games, you know what I mean? And they're 3D fighters, so it depends what my mood takes, you know what I mean? I think a 3D fighter is maybe the slightly easier to kind of play just because of the sidestep, because technically when you start changing axes and moving around, it gives you a kind of get out. Same way if you're down and they do a vertical move, you can roll from left to right, side to side, you know. Whereas in a 2D, you don't really have that luxury, and when you put down, you can get kicked in the head a few times.
You do, but I think the more modern ones like Mortal Kombat 10 and the Injustice games, having that escape button that you could basically burn some of your meter to escape from being properly pounded is kind of the modern equivalent of a sidestep. Certainly if you look at the more older Street Fighter games, no, you didn't have that option. The older Mortal Kombats as well, is if you were being juggled, you would potentially be juggled to death, and people would know how to do infinites, and you would just be bouncing around waiting for it to say game over. For me, definitely, I'm more for the 3D for the same thing as Stuart. I like the being able to sidestep out of the way of something, especially when you can see someone's going for something big and you just step out of the way and slap them around the back of the head. It's always fun. But I have got back into the 2D fighters. I think some of the visuals, the artistic work that goes into, especially something like the cel-drawn, like mad Japanese ones that me and Stu have played.
SNK games are up there. Pixel art, like pixel painting backgrounds with like, just the intros of these guys. Mainly like some of the fighters were like shadows and like trench coats and stuff, and you had guys fighting with sticks, and then all of a sudden the stick becomes a big 7-foot scythe, and it's just the sheer, they're like actual animation. It's not just like a 3D character fighting. It's like an actual cartoon you're controlling, you know, whipping out big anchors and riding dolphins and stuff, you know. It's totally over the top, you know. It's kind of like the Darkstalkers thing as well, and like, again, another great series by Capcom that's kind of went by the wayside, you know what I mean? The world's crying out for another Darkstalkers, but
yeah, it definitely feels like that might be the next thing they do, but whether they've got any money left after Capcom versus Marvel versus Capcom, whatever it was.
Yeah, and the minefield
I think
was
they
Street
probably
Fighter.
Bent a lot of money. Yeah, and again, Street Fighter, I've never really been a Street Fighter fan. The one I really liked was Street Fighter EX plus Alpha on the PlayStation, but that was more of a 3D Street Fighter.
I think that was the first time it was in 3D, wasn't it? That was
Yeah.
It was Street Fighter. I think it might have been the first out in it. I think I am sure because Alpha was a 2D one, wasn't it? He tries to remember his Street Fighter knowledge.
It was like a weird mix between cel shaded and 3D. But I've always liked that Virtua Fighter games. I think are fantastic, and I'm kind of gutted we haven't had one of them in a while.
Yeah, they're really technical, but Virtua Fighter's like the pinnacle of technical fighting. Although we'll probably talk about that, the different kind of disciplines in fighting games, because some are rock, paper, scissors, some are grapple based and stuff, and like Virtual Fighters are really grapple.
We haven't mentioned at all about wrestling games. Those for me are the ones that completely turn me off. As much as I like 3D fighters, I can't play wrestling games.
Even the Simpsons wrestling.
I had lots of friends at uni. I don't think I've ever played it, actually. Lots of friends who were big WWF, WWE fans, and would play it for hours and hours and hours, and I just couldn't get into it. It didn't look like there was really any skill to it. It looked like getting a grapple, repeatedly press buttons, and then maybe you'll get the move, maybe you won't. I couldn't get to grips with it. So for me, they're a major turn off.
So interestingly, you did move on to it there in terms of the different styles of fighting games, in terms of the way the mechanics work against your opponents. Like you say, the rock, paper, scissors, the other bits and pieces. Just to expand a little bit further on that, how many, in your opinion, different methods of beating the crap out of each other are there?
A few. I think as well, but I think the in the spectrum of what's welcoming and what's not. So like I would put Soul Calibur at one end, and I would put Virtual Fighter at the other end, and then in between. So like going back the way, I'd go Virtual Fighter, Street Fighter, because anything that needs a half circle, I think's a bit. It's a half circle's a weird thing to get your head around. If you've never done it and no one's shown you how to do it, half circle just boggles the brain sometimes, especially when you're having to do like double half circles and then back and forth and then Z at X,
It's the Z motions. It's the Z motions that for ages I just couldn't work out how you did it. And especially I could randomly pull it off occasionally on a joypad, but then trying to do it with a stick and you're like, I don't understand. What is this Z motion thing? And you look at it, and then as soon as you actually click with it, you're like, actually, that's not as hard as I kind of thought it was. But yeah, there's a lot of technical stuff with a lot of fighters. I think if you wanted to go for something that was completely untechnical, is go for something like dive kick, which is 2 buttons, and it's hard as hell. I've never actually played it against people. I really would like to, but you've got 2 buttons, dive and kick. You can't move, so you've got no directional movement. You either have a choice of jumping, and depending on how hard the button would depend on how high you jump, and kick.
Yeah.
So you would dive through the air, and it's just silly. It's a lot of fun to play. I'd recommend if anyone got it on PlayStation Plus and were a bit like, I don't know what this is, give it a crack, because it's actually really difficult.
See, there's like going back when the PlayStation 1 had games, there was Bushido Blade, which I love the bloody concept. It's so good. It's like one strike, one kill, but it's all about the standoff and just knowing when to attack, because if you attack and you leave yourself open, you die, and if you attack and land it, you win. And it was just such a pure form of combat,
Well, that actually chucks up an interesting question then. So what's your preference in a fighting game? Weapons or fists?
Iron Man suit. War machine.
Well, I think sometimes it's a bit blurred, because if you look at something like Street Fighter, where a lot of them don't have weapons, but they have fireballs. Or they have some kind of projectile, and you're like, you're just cheating. This is supposed to be a fighting game. Where the hell's that come from across the screen? Or after jumping in midair and carpet bombing what's going on there?
See, my issue with Street Fighter is my main's Fei Long, and Fei Long has 0 abilities like that. His thing is speed. So, like, the amount of times I've took on kind of high-level players is Fei Long, and you always get the first hit in, because nobody plays them, really, except for, people who know how to run on them. Because the amount of times you go online and you don't see them playing, but everybody's got Ken, Ryu, Guile, Blanca, E. Honda with his 1,000 slaps, and then you've just this one guy in his Bruce Lee style trunks, and you're like, I'm going to get first hit in here. And then from there downhill, it's pretty explanatory, but he's a kind of oddball in that kind of world, same as that falls into the same category as Mortal Kombat, where it's kind of it's mixture of arsenal of things, for everything from sentry turrets to just grabbing guys with chains with blades and stuff, and then we get into the X-ray moves, which in any other game are kill moves. It's like Predator runs his blade through your skull. That's a kill. Predator hits you in the stomach before that. That's a kill. You know what I mean? It's like you've died 4 times and then you finally get back up and you're like, this is not quite working to plan.
Well, I've got to say, I think Mortal Kombat earlier on in the series have put in one of the better implementations. I'm pretty sure it was Deadly Alliance, which allowed you to swap between weapons and unarmed as you were fighting.
I was just thinking about that.
You could really mess up your opponents by flipping between them, but it also meant a lot more to learn and understand the timing. And there were certain moves that flowed from punches to weapons and back to punches again. And it was a really lovely idea, but obviously people weren't fans of it because it came into one game and then never appeared again.
Well, I don't know.
Saying that, there was a lot in Deadly Alliance that never appeared again.
Well, I think it kind of evolved. I think Mortal Kombat and Injustice kind of evolved and used other buttons to help kind of, because if you play most of those games now, is you don't necessarily start with the weapon. You'll do a couple of moves and then tapping a button will use a weapon and then you'll carry on your combo with something else. So it kind of evolved and got surreptitiously slipped into the more modern Mortal Kombat games, but it wasn't a specific stance change of, right, I'm now going to attack you with my sword. I'm now going to put my sword away. I'm now going to attack you with my fists and feet.
Do you know what I mean? I was going to say, because I think about Injustice, if you're like Deadshot, he's going to use a Deathstroke. Even Deathstroke's an even better one. He uses his blades and his knives and his natural combat stance. Whereas if you're somebody like the Flash, you're not going to do that. You know what I mean? But you can still throw like lightning. You can do that. Flash thing where he runs fast and throws lightning bolts, or spins fast, for what I can remember. But I think, like you're saying about the evolution, I think especially the Mortal Kombat and Injustice series, it's such a cinematic thing now. The fighting in it is so it's just so slick, and like at the end of the day, you're just you could cut it down to sprite fights sprite wins, but it's just such for the intros to the backgrounds to the interactivity. So like you could be walking along and you can press a button to grab the back of a chopper and hit somebody, or hit somebody through a building that flies them up into a skyscraper that then flies them onto the next area. You know what I mean? Transition arenas and stuff, and it's just such a slick package.
There's been a real cannibalism of all the games kind of nicking off each other, because the first game I ever saw where someone would punch you into another arena was Dead or Alive, and that was groundbreaking at the time. It's like, what? I've just hit him through that wall and now we're fighting somewhere else. What's going on here? And then that got nicked and put into all sorts of stuff. So Mortal Kombat, Injustice, even Tekken's got it in some stages now. And it definitely looks like a lot of the fighting game companies will look at what someone else is doing and going, I like that. Can we use that? Supers. Street Fighter was notorious for all these weird and wonderful supers that you would throw off by 16 quarter circles forward and 15 button presses, and suddenly the screen would go bright purple and you'd have a 400 hit combo. But yeah, they definitely do seem to kind of cannibalize good ideas from each other. But I think you've also got like the whole cameo characters appearing in different games as well. You've got them all kind of appearing in all sorts of random stuff. You've got Negan in Tekken now. Who the hell would have thought of that a few years ago? It's like, let's get a bad guy from The Walking Dead into this. But then if you look back, you've had all like the Star Wars characters in Soul Calibur. They all had specific characters.
Zelda was in Soul Calibur.
Platform.
Do you know what I mean?
Zelda, you've had Kratos in from God of War in Mortal Kombat on PlayStation.
Spartan in Dead or Alive.
Yeah. You've got
You've got B the android in Soul Calibur. B2 for Nier Automata.
Oh yeah.
She's just a newly joined man. And then if you get to Injustice, just sit down. It's like you've got the Turtles, you've got Hellboy, you've got like.
Well, before you get to Injustice, look at Mortal Kombat. You've got Alien, Predator, you've got
Freddy Krueger.
Jason. It's absolutely insane. It's like. There's no way I would have imagined as a kid that you'd end up with these big scale licenses popping up in games, and not just popping up, being done really, really well. They're treated with real respect when they're included in. They're not just this token character being thrown in. Cole popping up in Street Fighter Cross Tekken from the infamous games. Street Fighter Cross Tekken. Who'd have thought? Growing up and seeing those two machines across an arcade game, they're never good. You'd imagine the idea of two fighting games putting their best characters against each other, but it was never likely to happen. And then it did. It's like, okay, granted, it's not the most amazing of fighting games because the Tekken characters don't adapt well to Street Fighter.
I would love to have seen them do Tekken Street Fighter first, just because, but we're never going to see Tekken Street Fighter now, I don't think. Time's going on. I
think we will, but I think it's a long way off. With the fact you've had Akuma appear now in Tekken, they've made models for him. I definitely think something's happened, but it's how soon we'll see it.
I have to say, I'd rather have not seen Akuma in Tekken 7 because he's easily the hardest character to fight in the entire game. He's just awful.
He's not.
I nearly did rage quit trying to get through him.
Yeah.
He's terrible.
But then you've also got like the Marvel vs. Capcom series, which brings in an array. Not so much the Marvel guys, but it's the Capcom guys like Ace Wright. Brought out the Attorney, fantastic. You know what I mean? What the hell? Arthur the Knight. You know what I mean? It's like the Servbot. It's this like loads of guys for Resident Evil and stuff. It's like loads of characters you never thought you would see. Frank West. Just
Frank West, I was just
what you want to do, you know what I mean? What's a Frank West fight? They also did
run someone over with a shopping trolley.
They did a Capcom versus Toma.
SNK.
No, they've done, but there's one for the Wii. I think it was like Toshamura or something. It was like a Japanese company, but it was like Capcom fighters fighting Battle of the Planets characters and stuff. Like it was only on the Wii, and it was like. It was a solid fighter, but it was just like the most Japanese crossover ever. And you're like, yeah, this is crazy.
Chucking all these characters in all over the place and trying to make something good of it. And we've already mentioned sort of the cinematic nature of some of the games now. Did they ever manage to really pull off a decent story mode?
I think your Mortal Kombat and your Injustices really, really, really do a good story mode through cutscenes and stuff. Yeah. And it's so much that it's not even cutscenes, it's just such a transitional thing. You'll go for riding, talking to somebody, to them, then fighting the hell out of somebody, then cutting to Jax or Sonya, and it's like it's so smooth. It's just really nice. Same way Injustice is like Batman switching to Superman, and kind of like then you flip. I'm sure there's a bit where you flip to like Gorilla Grog and stuff, fighting the Flash, and then it does the flip back and you fight as the Flash, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
It's just really nicely slick. But then the other side of that is like Soul Calibur is a massive like RPG style story mode where you build a fighter and you take him on a journey, like 80 odd hours fighting through this land, unlocking stuff and different challenges and stuff. And the same kind of things for Dead or Alive 6, where you it's a bit like Final Fantasy Dissidia in that you do core missions, but then the core missions unlock sub-missions, which then are matches, which then unlock more story for other fighters. So you'll do the core beats for like 4 or 5 fighters, but then there's other missions within that unlock. It's a bit jumbled, if you know what I mean. It's not quite as slick as what I think they imagined it was going to be. Yeah. Story mode. If you're not into the multiplayer, there's plenty of variety and story, especially when the kind of more high end, kind of newer side of the fighting stuff. There's a lot of kind of thought and kind of time went into it, you know.
Yeah, that's so the execution of the story. But my recollection of most story modes in fighting games is they're just insane. They do not make sense.
It's you're getting close to the end of the story mode when you suddenly get your mirror match. You're like, oh, I'm fighting myself.
It's when you fight the generic guy who's made out of glass or steel or wood or something, and he's basically every fighter in the game style.
He's got he can flip between all the different characters' moves, and you're like, oh yeah, you're just taking the mickey.
Yang Sung is gets away with it because it's his kind of thing, but. Jewel, for Virtual Fighter comes to mind as the kind of every man's every fighter.
It is, and Mokujin from Tekken.
From Tekken.
Oh, yeah. No, it's a very good point. You hit the training dummy, and that is it. Yeah.
I think it was always interesting.
Next fight is the boss fight.
if they had like a rivalry character where you would fight against someone who was a known rival, and you would get that little specialist cutscene of them just taunting each other, and then the little taunt at the end if you won, or the taunt from them if you lost. I always thought they were really good. They were fluff. They were a bit silly in comparison to what you've got now with these huge epic scale ones, like you said, Stu. We're looking at Injustice or even Tekken as well, and I think the clever the way that those are done, because it's not done to get you to drop money into an arcade machine. It's not trying to get you to keep putting money and play and play and play. It wants to sell you a story. It wants to sell you an experience. Tekken's had the most ridiculous canon. If you look at it, it's just crazy, absolutely bonkers. To then go, right, we're going to see if we can drag all this together and put it into one game about this conflict. If you've never played any of the Tekken games, to find out about the weird family feud that's going on with everyone killing each other off. It's just crazy to then go, what we're going to do is...
for throwing each other in volcanoes at the end of every game.
Exactly. It's like, this is going to be welcoming to newcomers, but they did a really good job. The fact of getting you to play different characters, I think, is a really good way of doing it. Yeah. Because people would stick with one character and go, all I'm going to do is play this character, whereas they've put a lot of effort into all these other characters. It makes sense if you at least get to fight with them for a round or two, especially if they fight differently to any of the other characters you've been using, because you always have to teach yourself how to fight again with each character. And I think that's really clever and keeps you engaged and keeps it fresh. Definitely Mortal Kombat for me, when I played that, I was like, wow, okay, this is really good.
I would say I think it's taken away from that having to finish the game with every character to unlock a new character. It's taken over, and it was Mortal Kombat 9? It wasn't called 9, was it? Was it just called Mortal Kombat? And I think that was my first introduction into that cinematic story that dropped you in the different shoes.
Yeah.
And it does force you to play it, and it's very enjoyable for it.
It does give you a bit more of an experience, and you may actually discover you quite like a character, because you will get your ass handed to you because they've deliberately done it so that the character plays differently to who you've been fighting with for the last 3 matches, and you'll lose. And it's go, okay, I'll lose. Right, maybe I should have a look at the move list here then. Maybe I should actually try and work out how to fight with this character. And you go, oh, wow, I can do that. Oh, that's really easy. Right, I'm going to spam that for this. No, the AI's learned. It's now button reading me. It's now going to slap me down. I need to learn something else. Cheating AI. That's you said about Shokan. Oh my God.
No, Shokan.
He's the worst ever AI boss. He drives me potty. Mortal Kombat it probably was Mortal Kombat 9 on the Vita. It's evil. It was evil on the PS3 as well. That boss fight is just insane. It just button reads you. You're like, no, you're just reading my moves now. It's just cruel.
Taking it just away from the main fighting modes, because I think it's fair to say a lot of games out there, the brawlers, whether it's the party ones, the online, they'd like to offer up something different. And there are various different silly modes that we get, or even serious modes. I'd like to know, what's your favourite? What's your favourite additional mode you've ever come across in a fighting game?
Smash the car in Street Fighter.
Seriously?
Well, I like the simplicity. It's like, there's a car, smash it. I would have said beach volleyball, but that's a totally separate title. But it is theoretically...
Well, you had Tekken Ball, didn't you? Which was it Tekken 3 where you had the volleyball in that?
What's the volleyball in
Tekken Ball? I know Tekken Ball's a thing.
No, there was definitely, was it Tekken 3 or maybe it was Tekken 2, but there was definitely a beach volleyball game you could play. I have not made that up.
It wasn't 3. Because that was Tekken Bowl and Tekken Force.
Tekken 2 then. There definitely was either that or I've absolutely hallucinated a great game. But I'm sure there was. I'm sure there was a random beach volleyball game.
Was it 4?
It was definitely Tekken Tag. But yeah, Tekken Tag Tournament 2.
Yeah, it's a big, weird beach ball game. I could definitely remember playing that.
So that was what, Tekken Tag Tournament 2?
Yeah.
So what was...
Right, yeah, I never played that one, so... Yeah, but that is insane.
Tekken Ball, I think, possibly was one of my favourites, especially when you could cheat it and you could use Hayachi's hair to line your shots up, and you would know exactly how to bowl each time, and you would pretty much get a strike with every bowl.
It was Yoshimitsu's laser vision. She could do that as well.
Yeah, definitely. That was a bizarre spin-off. But Puzz Fighter, which was it Puzzle Combat, which was a complete rip-off of Super Street Puzzle Fighter, and it wasn't even trying to disguise that, it was totally ripping it off. But I think the Mortal Kombat games on the PS2 era were really good value for money. Matt, you've kind of hinted at the idea of, maybe it was before we started recording, the idea of that story mode where you would go around and it would, I think Soul Calibur kind of now uses that idea. You'd go around and explore, and you would have to fight this character to get some gold. But then you would have a weird challenge where you'd have to fight them and you could only use kicks. You've got to defeat this character
or something, you were slapping about it.
Yeah.
Because there was the code, there was the vault in that Mortal Kombat game as well, because you weren't the coins, coins with a K. Everything began with a K.
Everything still does begin with a K, trust me.
Still does, yeah.
So you'd earn your coins, you'd open the vault, you do some more random wandering. But I think we put more hours into Puzzle Combat than we actually did the fighting. And we did a lot of fighting. No, I'm with you. That's actually my favourite, because it is just so ridiculous. But a lot of fun. An awful lot of fun. So, Stu, chance to change your mind? You're still with smashing the car?
Yeah, unless I can put Dead or Alive Beach Volleyball in it. You know what I mean? Because...
Yeah, well, that's a different sport for you.
I like smashing the car. It's great fun. It was always a highlight.
Fair enough.
It was always a highlight in Street Fighter as a kid. It was, time to smash the car.
Bonus stage.
The bonus modes are great, but the fighting is what we're here for. And practice makes perfect. Or does it?
Possibly.
There's a question. Does it matter? Because I know on multiple occasions I got my ass handed to me in Tekken by people who've never played it before.
They were usually the people that would hand your ass to you. You'd have someone randomly around and they go, "Oh yeah, I like a bit of Tekken. Oh, I like fighting games. I've never played them before." All right,
how'd you like them?
Give them a pad and they just randomly start bashing buttons, and you realise the reason they like them is because they always win, because there's no strategy. They might as well just be mashing their face against the buttons, and you're like, this is just cruel.
Yeah, I have to admit, I took that tactic online with Tekken 7 once or twice, and it worked once.
See, I think
don't be predictable.
I think as well, but button mashing can get you far in certain games, but in other games it can get you nowhere, and you'll just burn yourself out mashing away. I come back to Virtual Fighter, because Virtual Fighter does not like button bashers. It's all about
no. You're right. You've got to be precise for that.
Very specific timings of moves, and you can press lots of moves and they won't do anything because there's only a certain string will actually activate anything. If you just repeatedly slamming the buttons, it just doesn't do anything. And you're like, "Oh, is this controller broken?" Nope, it's the way the game plays.
Yeah.
Trying to hack a lock, you've got to do a very set combination, otherwise it's going to do nothing.
Yeah. The practice is important, but do you actually ever use the practice modes?
Only in certain games when I want. I'll use them in Mortal Kombat to do fatalities, just to get down how to do them. Because fatalities are a bit of a hit and miss thing, excluding the DLC that allows you to perform them easily, which was a thing. But most of the time, no. I like to practice with real people and try and. Unless there's a move I know I can do, or I know that if I go online and I see people using a fighter with a move, I kind of I want to learn that move, you know what I mean? Like maybe like Cyrax's net or something, you know, that kind of, when Sub-Zero does a freeze at distance or builds his ice wall, the kind of defensive moves, they're the kind of ones I'll maybe try and practice, but the majority of the time I just roll with the punches, boom boom.
I think I'm similar to Stu in the fact that I'll go in, usually I'll do it as a way to kind of get an idea of some of the moves. I'll tend to jump in and play like, is it Kumite mode in like Tekken, and I think Virtua Fighter had one as well. And you just keep randomly playing until you lose. So it's just kind of playing, and they get increasingly more difficult. The AI gets increasingly more difficult. And I'll play that, and then I'll get to a point and go, actually, this is about as good as I'm getting, and I'm going to start getting my ass handed to me. I'll go and have a look at the move list and I'll try and learn a few moves, and I'll tend to go off and spend maybe half an hour in the practice mode just trying out a few things, seeing if I can get anything to string together, and then go back. There's no way I do what the professionals do, where you watch them going in and properly learning how to do combos, and they've put the characters to fight in specific ways so that they'll attack you so that you can kind of know how to counter certain moves. There's no way I do that. I just don't know how, or can't be asked. But yeah, I'll definitely go in and spend a little bit of time, but I'm probably more like Stu, is I'll go and fight against real people. And as I said before, I think it's easier to keep fighting someone who keeps doing the same moves, because then you have to learn how to beat it. You have to learn how to avoid it.
Yeah, or I'd rather just grab a character and run them in through arcade mode. Just a nice, easy 12 rounds, 8 rounds, whatever, just to kind of break him in and just to kind of see how he kind of handles with a bit of pressure throughout.
I've got a final question for you both. I don't know whether it'll be an easy one to answer or not, but I want you to give me your favourite experience of either an online or a couch battle. What's given you the most satisfying feeling after a bout?
A little bit satisfying. I can tell you a few ones that were dreadful. I remember playing Street Fighter 4 with the then head of PR for the UK at Capcom, Leo Tan, and he was Guile. And
name dropper.
We're playing Street Fighter 4 just as it came out. It was a matter of weeks old, and I get horsed, but it was at the point where we're sitting in this room in the deepest, darkest dungeon in Glasgow, long story, and this guy's in the room and he's going, "You going to do it? You going to do it?" And I'm thinking to myself, what's this asking him to do? Well, it turns out I didn't know you could do this, but apparently it happened. In Street Fighter 4, there's a command, the button you can do to make Guile stop, take his glasses out, put his glasses back on, and then continue fighting you. And I was like, I'd never seen anybody do. I didn't know you could do that, because now usually it's at the end. He picks the glasses, puts the glasses on, and combs the hair. Well, in this, he actually stopped mid-fight, put the glasses on, and just kept fighting me. And I was like, yeah, okay. You work for the company that make the game, you know what I mean? I'm just a guy, you know what I mean? Take me on an FPS, I'll show you. And then, funnily enough, at my first Eurogamer, he bet me again at Street Fighter 4, which was quite funny. It was billed as the epic rematch, but he horsed me again. I mean, some folk fighter games, some folk play fighting games, some folk don't. Do you know what I mean? Just, yeah, I was doing the payroll, but yeah, there was a.
That's not a bad one. That's not a bad one.
I think for me it was probably learning to do the bear fart in Tekken and fighting against someone who didn't know what it was and just pulling it off and then walking into your giant air biscuit and just watching their health bar go, and they're like, what's going on there? That I think will always be up there as one of those moments of just, oh, that's just brilliant.
Nice. Mine, I think has to be Tekken 7, and a first match online when I did that. First round, I went in as Nina, and after many years of practice in chain throws, I pulled off the full length combo chain throw in the first match and won the first round flawlessly. Completely confused the other opponent. He did not give me a chance for the next 3 rounds, and I was beaten badly. But I was sat there thinking, yeah, but I got you. I got you in the first one. I'm happy with it.
So long as it's raw blood, anything to get to half a perfect, I'm happy.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I was pleased. We had a Tekken Bible, didn't we?
We did.
We genuinely had a book of all the Tekken moves that we used to go through.
Well, we learnt how to do chickens, which we knew existed because randomly would pull them off and it would be countering a counter, wouldn't it? So someone would go to grab you and then you would stop them from grabbing you and then they would punch you in the face for it. And you're like, what? chicken. It's like, what? How the hell do you do that? And we actually led. We spent hours and hours till long hours in the mornings trying to work out how to do this, consulting. This was before the internet was a wealth of information. You couldn't really find a YouTube guide of how to do this. It would be going on old FAQ sites to try and dig through, and Matt was knocking together a Bible, which I still have. It's still upstairs.
You've still got
in
it?
the bedroom somewhere. Yeah. Yeah, it was and it was useful because I think that's one of the things with fighting games. They've been really good at keeping an evolution of characters like Ryu's, like Dragon Punch or Fireball. You can do that in all the Street Fighter games. If you look at the Mortal Kombat ones, a lot of the similar moves, the Get Over Here by Scorpion, you can do that. Certain moves, you've kind of got them as muscle memory. Like you said, doing a chain throw in Tekken 7, that's 4 games since we used to play it in Tekken 3, and you would sit for hours learning how to do that chain throw. It's still there. It still kind of gives you that legacy, and I think that's what got me back into fighting games was going back and realizing actually I can still remember how to do some of this, and realizing, God, all those hours spent, and we mean hours spent playing this game hasn't been wasted because I can at least remember how to do a Tenchin combo now, and it's still there. So yeah, it's good. There's something satisfying about that weird muscle memory coming back as you're doing something. You're like, oh, that still works.
Excellent.
Yeah, it's not so much a remake every time. It's more an evolution. It's new systems, new gauges, new bars, new XP specials and stuff. There's all these different counters and blocks. Like Dead or Alive 6 has got in a kind of counter system now and stuff, and that's new. And there's no wee bar and stuff, and blah blah blah. It's a kind of just a layer upon layer upon layer upon layer, and refinement. That's the thing. It's like Street Fighter, as much as it is what it is, it does a good character rotation or a lot of refinement to the characters in the roster. It'll look at what's working, what's not working, what needs time changed and stuff in that. And I know in the pro circuit, that's a big part of the kind of Street Fighter ethos. Is like people like, I know like one of the biggest guys in the UK mains Bison. But it kind of ran a bit dull, but through a few mods, changes and stuff, a few things were nerfed. So he went to another fighter, but then he came back as Bison after they retweaked him again beyond that, and he's kind of back on form as Bison, you know. So it's kind of interesting, kind of again looking at the minutiae, the kind of changes you can get in these games, you know. Just shows you the detail.
It is really weird that you can see characters nerfed and buffed in a similar way that you would see happen with weapons in a first-person shooter. Is that there is a constant kind of balancing going on with these characters, especially when you've got like 20-odd fighters in a game. It's really difficult to kind of work out what all the permutations are for characters fighting each other and what throw is actually going to be avoidable because the character's too big or too small to be grabbed at a certain like distance and things like that, and having to go back in and rework it to stop it from having that effect or allowing it to have it as a feature rather than as a bug. And it's really clever. Definitely looking at professionals play it, or at least very good amateurs playing it, and seeing how they approach a fighting game and how the different bits interact with each other is really interesting. For me, it's a lot more interesting to watch. Esports for me was something I kind of got into because I didn't have the energy to play, and watched people playing Tekken 7 before Tekken 7 was released and was like, these guys are amazing. And I think that's what got me back into, actually, I want to play this. I remember the buzz of playing these games, and then having the time to do it, I think was really nice to be able to get in and kind of remember I could still do stuff and actually go off and learn other things as well.
Feels like it sums it up quite nicely. Been a good chat. Nice. To be honest, for me, quite a big trip down memory lane. Or in terms of how much I played Tekken 3. Not saying anything else. It was Tekken 3, wasn't it, and Tekken Tag. But yeah, no, it's been good, been interesting, and a nice little insight into a different side of it and a different way of thinking about how these fighting games work and what they're there for. So I appreciate the time that both of you have spent here. It's been really nice. Let the lovely listeners know, Connor, how they can get in touch with you if they want.
You can find me on Twitter at VDJOMB. That's where I'm usually there. I'm not saying much at the moment on Twitter, but I am usually looking at different things and retweeting.
He's a worker. He's a worker. Kill him.
I am definitely lacking at the moment, and I haven't been doing much streaming. I had previously been doing a fair bit of streaming of fighting games, but I'd kind of stepped back from it. But I do need to go back in because I still need to have a look at the Season 2 stuff. I still haven't tried Negan yet, and I really want to, but I think I might go back and probably play a bit more Injustice 2 again, and in bit more Mortal Kombat in preparation for Mortal Kombat 11 coming, because I think I'll probably pick it up. I picked up Mortal Kombat 10 with the season pass, had all of the characters to start with, so I'd be tempted with Mortal Kombat 11 and maybe pick the season pass up, because the Injustice season pass was amazing value, so I may be tempted to do that.
Cool. Stuart?
As you no doubt already know, you can find me over at Furious on Twitter, and you can find my column every Sunday on the Codec Moments website.
And I'm usually manning the Codec Moments Twitter account, and you can get in touch with us there. Thanks once again for listening. It's been lovely talking through fighting games. I think it's fair to say all three of us here are actually quite excited for Mortal Kombat 11, which should be out soon, about 14 days after this podcast comes out, something in that region. But yeah, you'll be able to pick it up
and
very
keep
soon.
Announcing fighters every day, every second day, every day. There's a new fighter announced.
There's a massive roster coming in this one, isn't there?
I'm losing count. I thought it'd be funny to do a piece on each of them, and I think we're up to 14 or 15 so far. I've mentioned, and there's a few that have slipped through the net because I think Cassandra, or Katana, was the latest one that was announced, and there's this weird bug guy with 4 legs on his back, and they kind of keep. I think he's got the keeper or something like that. It's like, just watch the fatalities. That's all you watch. That's all you need to watch.
Yeah, it's looking pretty damn impressive. And actually, don't watch the fatalities if you've got any kind of weak stomach. Some of them are horrible.
The bug woman one I watched today just before I come on, and it's like, what she does is she lays an egg inside them, and then they die, and then the thing erupts.
We're just going to censor it there.
Yeah, I mean,
we're not even going to describe it.
It's crazy. But yeah, definitely. And the thing is, there's like 2 or 3 fatalities per fighter, which is a really interesting thing. So
it'll keep us busy for a while. So thanks again for joining us, and we'll be back soon. Bye.
Bye.
Catches.